up, and Chad Gable. What a show that's going to be. And then Steph, the Women's World Championship.
Oh, this feels so good. This might be the best I've felt in my entire life. I never needed Bayley. I never needed Becky. On your own is the way to go. And now the only place that's left to go is straight to the top.
Is it just me, or was this a passable Raw tonight? Just a skippable Raw. I just feel like WWE realized, oh shit, we have an extra week to kill, so let's just throw a whole bunch of slop out there. Of course, no Roman Reigns, no Brock Lesnar, the two big names that obviously everybody gravitates to more than anything, but, they made Jacob Fatu look a little bit like a goof tonight. I mean, Seth Rollins super kicks him, and then Jacob Fatu sees him in the back later on. He's like, you got one up on me tonight, but don't let that happen again. Like, what are you, like a Southern hick now? and then because he immediately says, good if it is, I'm going to beat your ass. It just made Jacob Fatu look like, no, let me put it this way. If I go to the forest this weekend and I super kick a werewolf in the mouth and the werewolf goes flying and then I leave and then I come back later to take a leak and I bump into the same werewolf, I don't think the werewolf is going to look at me and say, you got one up on me today, but don't you dare do that again. That werewolf is just going to see me, not say a fucking word, and just destroy me. It made him look like a goof. In LA Knight, you could see what this is. Oh, the IWC, the fans are very upset with the treatment of LA Knight. So we'll have LA Knight cut these promos that kind of feel like a shoot. Seems like he's really going personal with Roman Reigns. And what was that supposed to do? Supposed to make us feel like WWE's got a second thought? The guy got pinned tonight. Got laid out. I mean, just a lot of tonight was something you could skip. Sorry, Danhausen versus Dominic Mysterio. I get it. A little comedy before Dom starts focusing on El Grande Americano and Triple Mania and everything else, but I don't know. I don't know what we really gained from tonight's Raw. Maybe Paul Heyman's promo. Maybe the promo, make it an official. I mean, they showed Big Kaz's name on the screen. You heard his voice. They are going to be bringing up a lot of his mental health issues. Don't forget, that guy, when we talked about him over the years, had some very, very serious issues going on. Battled alcoholism, but is in such a good place. And he's been in a good place for a long time. There are people out there that will say they're in a good place and they'll make you believe they're in a good place, but they're not. And you not always could spot it, but usually you can. Because you can't fake that. It's hard to fake it. You could become solitude. You could try to shield yourself from the everyday world, but when you're around people long enough, sooner or later, that leaks out a little bit. Enzo is returning also. I think we're only 2 weeks away. We're only one more Raw before Big Kaz makes his return. And let me tell you something. I like peanut butter by itself. But for most people out there, if you go to the store and you say, I'm craving a peanut butter sandwich, you're not going to buy it without a jar of jelly. You know what I mean? If you're going to IHOP and you're going to get eggs, I feel like having eggs for breakfast. probably going to get it with bacon or sausage with it. You know, one goes with the other. You're not going to have Big Kaz come in as a singles guy. Everybody's going to be doing the catchphrases. Everybody's going to be reminding us of Enzo. They absolutely going to be bringing back Enzo too. I guess they just want the Enzo element of it to be a surprise. I mean, if they don't mention it next week, I could see it now. He comes out the following week and he's on the rampway and then he just looks to the side and here comes Enzo. You can't have Big Kaz return without Enzo. Honestly, that's my honest opinion. I mean, maybe you guys feel a little differently about that, but yeah, you go with pancakes, you're going to get pancakes with sausage, or you're going to get pancakes with berries, or whatever floats your boat. So I like that. That was one of the things that I liked tonight. I like that they're keeping it a little bit real, which, no pun intended, that's Enzo's, handle online, real one. So they're being real. The thing is, if you remember Crime Time, God rest Shad Gatsford, but if you remember Crime Time, and there was always the rumors that they could come back in the WWE, and we were a little bit concerned because as time went on, you realized that there were elements of Crime Time that you could not do, that you used to do. There's elements, the world evolves for the good, for the bad, politically correct, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. And what we didn't want to have was we didn't want a really watered down, goofy version of Crime Time. And I'm sure some of you remember it, some of you are my age. Even with D-Generation X, when Shawn Michaels and Triple H reunited, that was a weird time. That was a weird time because they were on the cusp of going PG, Attitude Era being over. Remember, to me, the vision of Vince McMahon blowing himself up in a limo, to me, that was the moment, not exactly to the week, but to me, that's the moment that the Attitude Era died as well. Ruthless aggression, whatever you want to call it. But the thing is, when D-Generation X reunited, and they were doing like Vince Loves Cock, and they were showing a rooster on the screen, and then they were trying to be a little bit tongue-in-cheek with the Three's Company-like humor. But at the same time, though, didn't they do a segment where Candice Michelle was under a desk? And they were simulating that Candice Michelle might have been doing something she wasn't supposed to, you know what I mean? So it was just a weird time because WWE was about to really start pushing a kid-friendly product. No more bra and panties matches, no more pudding matches, mud, shit like that. And you had DX having little elements that, were just there. And then we got what we got. So, all right. So I think today will be a pretty easy show. Definitely would love everybody's feedback. If you're live in the chat, got a question later on, we'll answer a few, share a couple of comments. Raw was just an easy show to watch tonight. It's a show I'm not going to remember a couple of months from now. There was literally nothing on it. I mean, showing us more. I think probably the most newsworthy item that'll come out for Raw tonight is, wow, they showed a lot of Dean Ambrose uncensored. Yeah, I mean, so what? Yes, he's in AEW, the world's best kept secret. Of course, big deal. So what? We saw him on the screen. People will make such a big deal about that. That's why I had to play around with the thumbnail for this episode. I really didn't know where to go with it tonight. I think the Tom Brady story is a bigger story than you think. And no, I'm not saying that I trust TMZ. We just had a whole bunch of fun making fun of TMZ, getting fooled for a fan account for Jey Uso that was using a lot of AI, and they fell for it. But it's a little bit different because of a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff going on with Tom Brady and the WWE. You have this strange relationship going on, and you have this friction with Logan Paul and Tom Brady. Remember, it wasn't just Fanatics and it wasn't just, regular social media stuff last year. Remember the football game. That football game, they are building major tension between arguably the greatest quarterback in NFL history and a social media influencer. And it's all circled around WWE. Tom Brady is not a wrestler. And Tom Brady is not writing and creative. And Tom Brady is not making appearances for WWE. Okay, he goes on a video and he congratulates John Cena on his retirement. You can say what you want about Tom Brady. And yes, I never liked Tom Brady because I'm a diehard New York Giants fan. But still, over the years, any of us ever mentioned Tom Brady in and around wrestling? No. How many times really over the years, you know what athletes are big time WWE supporters and fans. They come to that area. You always see them in the crowd. Yes, they get comped. Yes, they sit front row. Yes, they'll make themselves look foolish drinking beer in one shot. But the people that truly give a shit about WWE and WWE comes to their town, their city, it's not like, hey, I wanted to go, but I couldn't find tickets. Even fucking John Cougar went. And you remember him, he looked like a panty waist. He was not having fun. John Cougar looked like a guy that was forced to go. You want to keep your relationship going, you better take her to Raw. She's a big wrestling fan. He said it, he's like, I don't want to fucking be here. But I think this story is a big deal. I really do think this story is a big deal. And, I thought about it long and hard. This is not, clickbait, because I purposely, trying to go outside the box. And I got news for you. My thoughts about Tom Brady wrestling, because TMZ is reporting it. It's not just TMZ reporting it. And it's not just ESPN reporting, because ESPN obviously is in bed with the WWE right now. We'll see what happens a couple of years from now. But a lot of sports media that don't work with WWE, that don't work with ESPN. There's a lot of people in the I don't want to say the athlete world, but in the sports world that do not like the fact that WWE's treated almost like sport. There's a lot of old school athletes, journalists, and I'm not talking wrestling people right now. I'm talking outside of wrestling, that Hall of Famers, whoever they do not like the fact that WWE's accepted pretty much as a sport. Remember the ESPYs. Nothing against Sasha, nothing against Bianca, nothing against Seth Rollins or anybody else that was there at that time. But I remember some of those big time journalists like, why are there WWE ESPYs? Like, why is that? And you kind of felt like this is only being done because you jerk me off, I jerk you off. That probably wasn't the best way to put it, but you get what I'm saying. So there's enough people out there talking about this right now that have nothing to gain with regards to WWE. And every time I thought about this, I made a list of some celebrities that have been in matches over the years. Now, I'm not just talking about regular TV, because Shaq has done a couple of things. I mean, obviously the thing he did with AEW, who could ever forget that infamous moment? Somebody with the video camera in the parking lot. He goes in, he gets put in the ambulance, and he walks out of the side and runs away. By the way, speaking of footage, oh my God, how could I forget? Tonight on this show, we are going to show you Penta unmasked. No, I'm not going to get in trouble. No, I'm not going to get sued. This guy, Neon Dion, listen, he's got 700,000 subscribers on Kick. But this motherfucker, you want a clickbait? I'll click it right back at you. You heard about the story, what happened with the Fanatics, right? I got 3 videos to share with you. We'll talk about that story in a little bit. And trust me, I don't think anybody will get mad at me when I show you the video. But this guy claims that Penta and his lawyers are suing him because he live streamed Penta without his mask on. Now, I don't fucking believe that for 1 minute. And when I say it later on, why, you're going to say to me, DT, yeah, spot on. Spot on. This is just a guy looking for clout, for extra hits. That's what these influencers do. It's like that guy Fade on X who fucking came back like a disease. Oh, did you see the ending of Chad Gable and Penta tonight? That is the ultimate. They are the most amazing tag team. What a beautiful, tremendous finish. I'm like, fuck you, man. I mean, God, I can't wait till they take his account down again and then he realizes that he's got to work in a fucking produce store to get fucking money. I hate when people make everything seem like it's the most ultimate, amazing, epic thing simply because you want ad revenue. Even if you're the hardest of the hardcore wrestling fan, people that say things like that for everything that happens, you're weird. Or is a couple of screws loose. I don't want to use certain medical terms because sometimes people get very upset at that. And I totally respect that. We got some really retarded people out there. So, anyway, so we're going to show you that footage later. We're going to show you what this Matarazzo did. And then we're going to show you his claim that he's being sued. And then when I show you the video of what actually happened, you realize this schmuck is just looking for hits. But we will show you the footage of him catching Penta without the mask on. And believe me when I tell you, it's a nothing burger. It really isn't. So we'll get to that. But I want to just quickly finish this Tom Brady thing. Because honestly, the last thing I really want to do is talk about Tom Brady in WWE. Do I want to see that? Some people I was talking to today said he's 48 years old. I'm like, yeah, and there's some WWE wrestlers that are older. What does that mean? He's 6'4", 225, 230. It's not like he's a twig. I mean, if we're looking at size, it's not like a twig. But when I look at some matches over the years, okay, I remember WCW, Dennis Rodman and Hollywood Hogan versus Diamond Dallas Page and Karl Malone. Probably my favorite WCW match of all time that involved a non-wrestler. I thought Malone was awesome, man. And the way they had him wearing the black pants, he looked so much taller than he was. And he was already tall. I enjoyed that match tremendously. The other shit with Jay Leno in the ring is dumb. Some of it's dumb. But even you look at others. You got David Arquette, obviously. That was horrible. But you hear that he gave all the money he made to Brian Pillman's family. We did not know that, obviously the money didn't go where it was supposed to. If you know anything about Brian Pillman's, wife, who is now passed away as well. Hey, listen, addiction makes you do things you don't want to do, but it happens. Steve Mongo McMichael, at least he trained. At least he trained and tried to become a professional wrestler. I'm one of the very few you will always, going back to the 90s, always hear me say, not very good in the ring, but I appreciated how hard he worked to try to make it legit. That's why even back in the wrestling days, a lot of wrestlers respected Mongo for even trying to do what he was doing. You never had wrestlers stabbing him in the back. They really, saw that the guy tried. It just, unfortunately, it hits Dana Brooke territory. No matter how many reps you do, doesn't mean suddenly you're going to put it all together. And he was very, very sloppy in the ring. Could not tell a story for nothing. But then you go to WWE. Obviously, to me, the greatest one of all time, Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest. I mean, Bad Bunny, yeah, that's for one match. But if it's Tom Brady, it's the same thing. You'll choreograph for one match. Then you look at one that probably some people forgot about. Dolph Ziggler and Lay Cool versus Morrison and Trish Stratus, along with Snooki. Snooki, wasn't that bad. Never did anything ever again. I remember the promo after WrestleMania. It was WrestleMania, right? Yeah, it was WrestleMania. After it was over, she's like, I want to do this again. I hope WWE brings me back. I'm like, you don't want to do this again. You're just trying to make sure the check is signed. did you sign the check yet? Oh, I love this place. I've fallen in love. Yeah, okay. I almost sound like Paige in the Bella's interview from this weekend. We'll talk about that Wednesday. I kind of feel bad a little bit for Paige right now. I think she forgot that the IWC could be extremely vicious, and your words will come back to haunt you. And unfortunately, I expect sometime this week, Paige to take her social media account down and go dark for a little while because of something she said on the Bella's podcast about AEW. We'll talk about it Wednesday. I want to see where it goes from here. I have the clip, but I also feel that sometimes some things are best left not said. Just because you're a celebrity or a public figure doesn't mean everything on your mind's got to come out. Sometimes things are just better left alone. It's not necessary, but Floyd Mayweather versus The Big Show, Lawrence Taylor versus Bam Bam Bigelow. Let me tell you something. You've heard me over the years talk about that match. I became decent friends with Bam Bam Bigelow, to the point where the guy wanted me to auction off all of his collectibles on eBay. Anybody that remembers that story? He owned the ECW ring after ECW went out of business and asked me to sell it for him. All right. The guy was a very good man, and he absolutely loved the fact that he was in the match with Lawrence Taylor. And Lawrence Taylor worked his ass off to try to make it work. Wasn't a very good main event, but for the amount of effort that was put in, listen, this is the thing. Yes, you could blame the athlete to an extent, but you got to blame the company that is willing to put those people in that position. Blame WWE for the fucking Pat McAfee shit earlier this year. Blame WWE for the jelly donut shit earlier this year. Blame them for the shit that happened with Travis Scott. Don't necessarily, I can't stand Travis Scott. I don't like him. I acknowledge he's a great performer, but I don't care if somebody says, "Oh, The Rock told him to lay it into Cody Rhodes and Cody was fine with it as well." It's not that. It's just that, you realize, blame TKO and WWE for putting it in that position. So now we have Tom Brady. And to me, all roads, pun intended, point to Survivor Series. And the reason why I say that is because, number one, they're going to Houston. They're going to a stadium. All right. They're going to charge a shitload of money. Do not be fooled about these $25 ticket things. We talked about it yesterday. Yeah, if you check out the news world, WWE sold 4,000 tickets in the last couple of days. 4,000. Remember, WrestleTix counts dots. They have no idea how many of them were bought from scalpers, how many of them were bought from regular fans, how many people who bought it from others that are going to put it on the secondary market, how many of them were distributed to TV stations and radio stations and contests and this and that. All they do is count dots. But the fact is, 4,000 dots have disappeared in the last 4 days. WWE's going to end up being close to 30,000 for each night. And that's what they're setting the arena up for, or the stadium up for. But that stadium holds 70+ thousand. So they're not going to get it even half full. Even though they claim, the tickets are sold out. Listen, I could book a stadium right now and have a barbecue and only limit it to 50 people. And I could say, all the tickets are sold out. Yeah, but you only offered 50 tickets. But it's sold out. It's sold out. 30,000 is not a bad number, but it shows you SummerSlam should have been one night, not two. And when we get into the updated card, you'll understand that even more. It is atrocious that WWE still has not revealed what shows, what matches are on each night. We are less than 2 weeks away, and they are not revealing yet what's on night one and what's on night two. They want people to buy both nights And I think that is terrible because there are people holding out that only can afford one night. You know, these $25 tickets are not floor seats. They're not in the section 100s or the 200s. This is the fucking boondocks. This is the boondocks. And again, these are dots disappearing. So you have no idea what ends up happening. I do believe that Minnesota is one of the states that with the Freedom of Information Act, you can get the total turnstile gate. So you won't have it that day, but in a couple of months, we will find out how many people actually attended. So just because WWE throws a number out SummerSlam weekend doesn't necessarily mean that's the number. Think about Slammiversary last year. We just uploaded the history show yesterday. It was a day late, but I uploaded it. Tommy Dreamer, who fucked up Mike Santana and started 1 year of awfulness in TNA, and that was the starting point. And to try to cover it up, and remember, Slammiversary in Long Island was their biggest attendance in history, and it was documented. And then what did Tommy Dreamer do? To cover it up, Bound for Glory, the next pay-per-view, he gives the belt to Mike Santana and then claims that it drew 300 fans more than Slammiversary. So he walks around while he's getting vilified online because everybody in New York, especially even indie wrestlers, went to Long Island to see Mike Santana win the belt and pissed off everybody in attendance. You go back to that same building this year, you'll draw 2,000 people at most, even if you offer free barbecue. All right. So what happens? He goes and they announce that night that Bound for Glory surpassed Slammiversary. And then 2 months later, somebody contacts the state and finds out that they had 2,000 tickets less. They lied. They had to make sure Bound for Glory's number was bigger than Slammiversary to justify why they didn't pull the trigger with Mike Santana winning the belt in New York. They fucked up. And they tried to cover it up, and they got burned two months later. And then once Dreamer got fired, you know the deal. He goes on Busted Open, makes the claim this year after the out of the bag that you lied, and he goes on Busted Open and says the old fake number. And what happens? Dave LaGreca is busy fucking pulling lint balls out of his pink robe, and Bully Ray's trying to figure out how much more can I be a dick online. And nobody stops and says to Tommy Dreamer, hey, Tommy, didn't they come out with that the state revealed that it was 2,000 tickets less? No, nobody says nothing. So, you know, of course we have a right to complain, and I'll complain also. I'll show you something in a moment, something that I am going to keep bringing up because I want you to take note of all the news outlets out there that are ignoring a story when it comes to Netflix. But the reason why I point to Survivor Series is because it's in Houston. It's in a stadium that seats a shitload of people. They want to go for 50,000. Easy. And they're not doing 2 nights, obviously. So if you're going to put 50,000 in there, you have to have some pretty big matches. Bloodline versus Bloodline doesn't tickle everybody's fancy like it used to. Sorry. Solo Sikoa trying to work with Seth Rollins today. I literally wanted to drink this whole bottle of Zambuca. He's literally in the ring. Seth, you're not just fighting Roman, you're fighting the Bloodline. And I should know, I was part of it. Seth Rollins should have turned around and said, hey, stupid, I should know too. I got screwed from you motherfuckers the last couple of years. I've been fighting Roman and The Rock and the Usos and everyone else. Who are you talking to? What do you think, I left AEW and just came back? You think I had COVID for 5 years and just came back? You think I had a baby and couldn't come to the... Solo's talking to him as if Seth Rollins was never involved around the Bloodline before. It was such an asinine thing. It's not his fault. That's creative. So you do Bloodline versus Bloodline at Survivor Series, it ain't going to draw. So you have to start putting other things in there. Think ESPN. Think TKO. Think the shit with Logan Paul. And the reason why I put Bronson Reed in this is because I don't think Bron Breakker would be the ideal person, because I think Bronson Reed, who is going to be returning soon, it could easily be the one who tsunamis Tom Brady, and Tom Brady will be fine. He will tsunami Cody Rhodes, having this beast, even though he's dropped 70 pounds, this beast in the ring will have a perfect presence to complement Logan Paul. I don't think Bron Breakker and Logan Paul will be the way to go. And plus, I could see Bronson Reed having a much better feud with Cody Rhodes than Bron Breakker and Cody Rhodes. I think fans would probably get into Bron Breakker a shitload more than they would Bronson Reed. I think Bronson Reed and Logan Paul would be the ideal team, because I would think Logan Paul's going to choose someone from the Vision if they do this. Now, the wrestling world and the TMZ world keep saying Tom Brady versus Logan Paul. Tom Brady versus Logan Paul. Listen, Logan Paul is awesome in the ring, but he is not someone who's been in the wrestling business and gone the indies and everything else that he could call a match. All right, you need veterans in there. And Tom Brady is more ideal. Plus, if you followed this weekend with Fanatics, who is alongside Tom Brady? It's Cody Rhodes. They just did this podcast too. For what? You think wrestling fans suddenly care about Tom Brady? If you're a football fan, you probably do. You think football suddenly cares about WWE? Why? Because they're drinking Wheatley vodka? So doing all this and keeping Cody Rhodes around Tom Brady, Logan Paul's got to align himself with, and absolutely it should not be Austin Theory. Oh, no Austin Theory with that. So I don't think it's WrestleMania. WrestleMania is in Saudi Arabia. WrestleMania, there's going to be no WrestleTix with dots and low ticket sales and everything like that. WWE's got their money. So if the building sells the tickets for $20 or sells them for $80 and drops it to $20 or sells it for $6, that's the building, and that's Saudi Arabia doing. That's not WWE. WWE's not the one in control, or TKO, that are figuring out what are we charging the Saudis. So if you're going to capitalize on Tom Brady, you're not going to do it in Saudi Arabia in a weekend where they've already paid. WWE's already paid. Plus, I don't know how much Saudi Arabia cares about American football. I mean, I get it. We had World Cup, and you had 50,000 people in New York that suddenly act like they're soccer fans, but they're not. And you have these famous players from Spain and Argentina and whatever, Germany and others, Ecuador, Mexico. And I'm like, I never heard any of these people. You haven't heard of so-and-so? No, of course not. So I don't know if Saudi Arabia gives a shit about Tom Brady. So you're going to do it. You do it in Houston, in a sports town. Houston is big on sports. And SummerSlam, Survivor Series, they're going, listen, I love some of my friends in the news world, in the podcasting world, but I saw, and I'll give you one example, and I respect him completely, Raj, that writes on, Raj Giri. He writes, TKO learned a lesson. They learn nothing. They learn nothing. It's business. They learn nothing. What are we talking about? They learned. What are you talking about? When On Location charges $6,000 and your left lung to go to Saturday night's main event or WWE Raw in your next town or Survivor Series or anything else, you're going to realize, no. It's just, that's how it works. You get people that, I must have it, gotta have it, need it, addicted, I will pay all of my money to go. And you get the people that drop their money before anyone else and brag about it. Then you get the other people that, hey, let's plan a bucket list. Let's plan a trip. Let's go to SummerSlam. Let's do this. And you get those people that put everything together. And then you get the millionaires and people out there that just want to show up for clout and walk around like this neon freak, and doing what they're doing. And then you get the people out there that are in the middle, like, hey, I want to go, but I'm not going to bankrupt my house over it. So they'll put $2,000, $3,000 aside to go. And you get your 10, 15, 20,000. Raw tonight had 11,000 people. All right? They're not drawing flies. But the thing is, what's happened is you have a 70,000 seat building and you're doing it 2 nights. So that's 140,000 seats there. Okay, let's set it up for 30,000 each night. That's still 60,000 tickets, whether you sell them, whatever it is. And then people out there, Minneapolis, Minnesota, the quality of life, living, the income, hourly wages, the economy is much different than New York and New Jersey. And people out there are not in droves. You know, you'll see the usual people in the first 2 rows. You'll see Brock Lesnar, guy that supposedly was supposed to leave until he realized nobody loves me no more. He'll be sitting there. You get the other guy that obviously doesn't know what to do with his money. You'll get purple-haired girl. You'll get the I can't say that. You'll get some people, and you'll see them sitting there both nights. It's fine. And then what happens, you know, a month goes by. You haven't told anybody what each night is going to offer. You've only come up with 7 or 8 matches with only a week and a half left to go. You divide that by 2, that's not even 5 matches per card, and you want to charge people $1,000? They're still on Ticketmaster tickets for $4,000. Just because it's a $25 ticket. That's like you want to go to a party, you know, but hey, you know, I want to go. I just want to be there. I'm not going to buy any drinks. I'm not going to sit in the VIP area. I don't care if I'm in the back of the parking lot. I just want to tell everyone for the rest of my life that I was there. All right, $25, you're in section 599. That's what this is. They're taking a whole bunch of tickets that are in the worst of the worst, and they want to try to get those sold. And then what happens? You get all of the $25 tickets sold, and what's left? All the expensive ones. So now, fuck. They announced the matches. Damn, I want to go to night 2. But the tickets that are available, the cheapest one is $600. Shit, I guess I got to buy that. You know, and then again, you got all the scalpers. We talked about it yesterday. So you look at Tom Brady, you got to book it in a place that is going to generate not just publicity, but income. Saudi Arabia is not the place to do that. I don't even think the Royal Rumble is the place to do that. Survivor Series is the easiest place to do it. Plus, what are you going to do? Is this going to be like Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio, that they're going to tease that they're going to break up for 4 years, 2.5 years, whatever it was? Like Logan Paul and Tom Brady for 2, 3, 4 years, every time they're around each other, I slap you, you slap me. I curse at you, you curse at me. You know, I put your family down, you put my family down. After a while, people are like, oh my God, just kill yourselves already. And I don't mean it like that. You know, I'm just figure of speech, but still. So, you know, you have to do it on this. And I don't think you put, and listen, I think we all agree, Tom Brady isn't the most beloved athlete out there. I think that there's enough people out there that might boo this motherfucker. You put him in a one-on-one match against Logan Paul, that's like saying to me, DT, you want to get stabbed or you want to get shot? Do you want to drink battery acid or you want to drink rubbing alcohol? Like, who's this? You know what I mean? Tom Brady is not a wrestler. Tom Brady is not someone that's been around wrestling. That, you know, you look at even some NBA players, you look at former NFL players that always show up. You see the quarterback from the 49ers that's always ringside. You put that person in a match, people will get behind them. Tom Brady is not suddenly going to be this beloved babyface. So you keep aligning him with Cody Rhodes. You could have Cody Rhodes and Tom Brady versus Logan Paul and person of his choosing. And I do believe that's going to happen. The question is where, and the question is when. Tom Brady is young enough to do it. If you go back to some of the matches that I mentioned, these wrestlers executed moves, but it's not like Bad Bunny set the standard. Like, if you're going to do a match, Mr. Celebrity or Mrs. Celebrity, then you have to take you got to view Bad Bunny tapes, because you got to do that. No, Tom Brady could do gaga. Hit a move, hit net, one move here. Holy shit, Canadian destroyer. New England destroyer. You're like the Brady bomb. The Brady bunch. Like, you could cut. That's what it'll be. You let the wrestlers do the work and you just piggyback off of them. And with Cody Rhodes, that's what happens. Okay, you get a little brain fart. You're stuck in the mud. You don't know what to do next. Everything goes black. You know, okay, tag me in. Or Logan Paul will do a cheap shot or something just to get the attention off of Tom Brady. So that's what I think is going to happen. I really do. So we will see. I'm very curious. What do you guys think? Is this something that you would be interested in seeing? Now, keep in mind, it would only be one match. It's not the entire card. And remember, Survivor Series is 2 sets of War Games. So you're only going to have probably 5 matches, most. But you have 2 War Games matches. You add something like that and then have 2 title matches on top of that. I think that actually would be a pretty damn decent Survivor Series. How are you going to fill 50,000, 60,000? I don't know exactly how many are in that stadium. I would say between 50 and 60, rough estimate. Maybe somebody could check it. How are you going to sell that for 5 matches? Especially if one is Bloodline versus Bloodline. So this might be a way to do that. So again, doesn't mean I'm a huge fan of it, but it makes me, try to understand what would be the most logical way to do it. So, all right. I wanted to just show you something for anybody that is interested, because we talked about it briefly on Wednesday. I shared it on my X account, and I just wanted you guys to see it because and we'll talk about Raw next, and then we'll get into some news, and then we'll get out of here. We'll definitely get to show the footage of what happened with Penta at Fanatics. But for anybody that wants to know, all right, Netflix revealed their premium live event numbers for WWE for the first 6 months of 2026. Now remember, Netflix does not air premium live events for WWE in the United States. It is international only. And the reason why this is very important is because when you don't include the United States, you start realizing when you think about some of these numbers, it's very interesting to realize how many people internationally went out of their way to watch these events. Okay? So when you think about the Raw numbers every week, understand, how that there's a big audience internationally that Netflix is trying to grab every week. And by the way, if you missed yesterday's episode, it is definitely a must. Remember last week with Brock Lesnar with that new shirt, Talk Shit, Get Hit? And in case you didn't know the news, Netflix censored his censored shirt. Yesterday, we got into a complete dive as to why Netflix censored Cody, blacked out Brock, and blurred Braun. There are 3 specific reasons why. And remember, my friends, the wrestling world is not reporting it. They don't want to report facts. When it comes to Netflix, they want to keep you in a cloud, because by keeping it in a cloud and they don't have answers, they could keep talking about it. All right, that Cody blur was last year. This is nothing new. When you saw the news people out there, when Braun's head got blurred last month, people are acting like Netflix just started doing this. They've been doing this for well over a year. And no one tries to give you the answers, because every time it happens, they could act naive. Why is Netflix doing this? Netflix has gory stuff. Netflix has vulgar language. But when it comes to WWE, why do they do that? Why do they blur out just a little bit of blood? We know the answers. And I've given it to you, and the wrestling world won't, because they want it to be an ongoing topic that they could keep clickbaiting and hyping over. And we're going to fry Meltzer right now. because Meltzer, and I still respect him, but I've realized that he's so pompous that he can never accept someone else giving him information. If it's not him finding the story, no one else, he doesn't thank anyone else. When was the last time you have ever heard Dave Meltzer say to him and said, wow, I didn't know that. Thank you very much for giving me that information. I was not aware of that. Well, thank you for clearing that up. All right, there's some very, very pompous people out there. And I want to show you guys something. This is my infamous tweet from September 10th of 2025. At that time, Dave Meltzer was teasing a blockbuster of a story about preliminary numbers for Raw doing the lowest to date. And he says that Netflix was going to manipulate the numbers and he was going to have a major story shortly. So I went on X after getting the information, you know where I get it from, and I wrote simply, it's mathematics, stupid. It's simple math, Dave. You take the total amount of hours watched for a show and you divide it into the length of the show. And that will tell you the total number of viewers. And Netflix averages it out to the nearest 100,000. And I gave an example for that week. Raw for that week did 5.2 million hours watched. You interpret that into minutes. You convert it to minutes. It's 312 million minutes. Then you divide that 312 million into the length of the show, which was 126 minutes, and that gives you 2.4 million viewers. Easy peasy. Everybody else was like, thank you. Wow, that's easy. Meltzer comes back and fights me. And we debated for like 3 days. And then when I kind of got him in the corner and said, Dave, why are you including commercials? Because commercials are part of the viewing time. No. When you sell advertising to someone, you think someone wants to be on a show simply because fucking the General's insurance was on? You don't factor in commercials. You don't factor in commercials. This guy was factoring commercials. Just like last week, we started putting day one Raw numbers. Started talking about day one numbers. Netflix don't give out day one numbers. And then I realized Flix Patrol is where he's getting day one numbers. What the guy didn't realize is that Flix Patrol, when they report day one numbers for Raw, it's video on demand. It's not live. And as soon as I brought it to his attention, did that story ever come out? Nope. 2 times in a row. So I put this out there last week, and everybody and their mother saw it. This, okay? This is from The Wrap. This is from The Wrap and Yahoo, all right? And other non-wrestling media outlets out there posted this story also. They talked about the World Cup ratings, talked about Netflix shows. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because here's a story that you probably don't know. Netflix, I believe, starting immediately, when they give you the numbers for views, they're doing it every year now, not every 6 months. So for 6 months, okay, for half a year, this is what Netflix drew for WWE's premium live events internationally. I'll give you some news right now. The most viewed show, premium live event, for the first 6 months was the Royal Rumble, did 3.1 million views. The Elimination Chamber was the second most watched WWE premium live event this year so far at 1.9 million views. WrestleMania Night 1 did 2.7 million views. WrestleMania Night 2 did 3 million views. Backlash did 1,400,000, which is impressive because Backlash is only 2 months old. Clash in Italy, even more impressive, 1.6 million views. That's even more recent. And Night of Champions, which just happened, 1 million views. Netflix is going to start giving numbers annually. Any show that is on Netflix that has a minimum of 50,000 hours watched, they will give you a number. But they're no longer going to give you every 6 months. They're going to give it to you once a year. So the numbers I just gave you, they're going to start doing it annually. So now, this is a big deal in the news world outside of wrestling, because there's thousands of shows on Netflix. And, you know, a lot of places depend on these numbers. They also want to see how numbers are going. Plus, what a lot of you don't realize is that some of Netflix's shows, between the ones that have multiple seasons, they're now starting to find out that some of these shows are dropping between 40 and 80% in viewership on a following season. That the attention span of a lot of people that are viewing Netflix is very, very short. And some shows are getting canceled because of a result of that. So now you have an article like this. And my God, you look at the obsession of Meltzer and WrestleNomics and Wade Keller and everybody else in the news world that covers Netflix ratings. Wouldn't you want to know about this story? Wouldn't you want your viewers to read this story? Wouldn't you want to understand more what Netflix counts as a view? Now, if you look at your screen, contrary to what some people believe, that is not Io Sky, Chad Gable, Akira Tozawa, and Lyra Vicaria on your screen. That is people from a TV show called Avatar, The Last Airbender. All right. This is not a wrestling article. They are telling you how Netflix calculates a view. So think about the fight I had with Dave Meltzer last year. Think about this continuing bullshit that is being spread across the wrestling world. And then I want you to look at this article. And as you read this article, it says Netflix counts its audience. Now think about my tweet from last year. This is exactly what they wrote. Netflix divides the number of hours viewed by the show's runtime, a metric used by other streamers including Disney Plus and Hulu. It's a departure from linear TV, which measures audience using viewers tallied by a program in a window of time. Meaning that if a show's on for 2 hours live, they get the rating based on the people watching for that window of time. Netflix goes based on the hours viewed at a viewer's leisure during the week. If you look even further, this is exactly what we talked about. This is exactly why him consistently trying to compare Dynamite's numbers to Raw is retarded. Dynamite is on linear television, and we don't know Max's numbers, and I'm going to share with you a little special treat in a moment from the mouth of Brian Alvarez himself. So you look at Netflix and ESPN, and it says, while linear channels measure how many people tuned into a telecast at a certain time, the advent of streaming made it so audiences could call up the show or movie on demand, enabling subscribers to watch or rewatch whenever they so please. When you get a Raw rating, Netflix don't give a shit if you watch it on a Monday night. They don't give a shit if you watch it on a Wednesday night. They don't give a shit if you watch it on a Friday night. These wrestling people out there that still insist that you should use the old data system. So now Netflix, it goes into everything. It shows you exactly and it's exactly what we put up last year. You look at this article and it specifically gets into all of this. It even explains how other streamers out there, streaming platforms like Disney Plus and Hulu, use the same system. The only reason why you never hear about it is because those streaming platforms don't release their numbers. They only release it when there's a press release, when some event or some show gets outrageous numbers. See, you look at 7 Day, there's no 1 day this, 1 day that. That's all something in Dave Meltzer's mind. So here you have an article that is not written by a wrestling website, has nothing to do with wrestling, and they are telling the world out there how Netflix calculates a view. It is 100% what we, oh, please don't give me technical. There we go. It's 100% what we talked about for the last 2 years. And this guy, they all read the article. Have you seen one of those wrestling websites out there report that article? Enlighten themselves, enlighten their viewers. Look, The Wrap just put out a great explanation what counts as you. You don't want to listen to me. I'm not going to listen to this fucking fat guinea. in fucking New York. If you're not going to listen to me and you don't listen to them, you just still keep putting out the figment of your imagination. So now we get to BJ Bethel. BJ Bethel. The max subscribers. Talk about someone who absolutely just, it became a legend for nothing. It's almost like that old reality show. What was that show on Spike TV? It was the reverse reality show. Not the Nerd. Somebody remembers back in the 2000s. Remember that guy? What is going on? Remember that reality show on Spike TV that sucked? It was like a reverse reality show. It was The Something. Someone will remember the name. That's kind of like what BJ Bethel was. This is a guy that became a legend by giving nothing. He has contributed. Joe Schmo, thank you. I don't know why I thought Joe Schmo. Any of you out there never saw Joe Schmo, you should go out of your way and watch it. It's epic. But BJ Bethel put out this number a while back that Max draws 500,000 views for AEW. Max gives nothing. There is nobody out there that gave that number to anything. There's nobody he blew. There's nobody he blackmailed. And if this guy got any information, how come he's got nothing before and nothing after? And if somebody gave you a scoop, you're going to blow your relationship with that person by just throwing that out there. So I want you just to see how deceiving some people are. I want you to hear a clip from a year ago. Brian Alvarez talking about BJ Bethel's rating. In this clip, you will hear Brian Alvarez say that him and Dave do not believe it's 500,000 subscribers, viewers watched on Max. But I want you to see if you could pick up on how he says it. I'll give you a little spoiler. Pay very close attention how Brian Alvarez does not call bullshit on BJ Bethel's number. He doesn't believe the number to be accurate. He never questions BJ Bethel for putting out that number. He says, I don't know where he got the number from. I believe it's something, but I don't believe it's that. So here's someone who knows that BJ Bethel made this out of his asshole. And instead of saying, you're full of shit, man, this guy didn't, no one has that number. Even Tony Khan supposedly don't have that number. But instead he says, well, we don't know what the actual number is. But the funny thing is, at the very end of the conversation, he throws out a number. He says him and Dave think it's between 100 and 150,000 subscribers. You know what that is? I don't have any crystal ball around me. I don't have any white balls around. Like you're calling out someone that and you put out a number that you have no idea if it's true either. You want to guess? Fine. Just listen to this. It's a minute long. But I want you to listen how deceiving people are. They make you think that they're going against, but when you actually break it down, you realize he doesn't have the kahunas to say, BJ Bethel, you're a fucking liar. That's bullshit.
This guy here says, Brian, Dave is insistent AEW does 500,000 streaming, despite that running basically against what WBD said. Do you believe they do 500,000? Okay, first off, that's incorrect. He does not believe that. What he has said is that nobody seems to have a real number, and that the closest we have to anyone claiming to have a number through sources at WBD is BJ Bethel, who claimed 500,000. Now, Dave himself has said that sounds really high, and I agree. And the thing with streaming is we don't know anything about anything. Like, what does any of this even mean? I don't think 500,000 individual people are streaming Dynamite every Wednesday. I'm not saying that BJ is wrong. Whatever numbers he got, I'm sure are numbers that he got. But, like, what does that mean? Over the course of 2 hours live, 500,000 people watch 1 second? Well, I don't know what that means, okay? What I do believe...
I can't even listen to that shit. I can't even listen to that. Can't even listen to that. They believe that BJ Bethel got a number. Based on what? Because it makes Dynamite look... Again, you'll believe someone who just threw a number out there, but you have that news article that clearly explains to you, not based on Raw, but based on thousands of non-wrestling shows, how Netflix determines a view. Why is it that only a couple of Polacks in the wrestling world question Netflix's view count? But you don't see people that are battling for TV shows and reality shows and stand-up comedians and sports rejects and Hall of Famers and movies and this and that and TV series and horror films and documentaries and, whatever. You don't see them all fighting each other saying, I don't believe that number. That number is exaggerated. That number is bullshit. That number is this. It's only these people. Ask yourself why they did not enlighten their audience. How come, listen, and I want to make this clear. I'm not trying to throw, love to some people out there, but PW Insider, Fightful, even One Wrestling to an extent, a few other sites out there, they never put any cred in BJ Bethel's number. They never put any cred in the claims that other people have made. So I am not calling out those places for not reporting this. I'm talking about the people out there that keep insisting that Netflix finagles their numbers. I'm talking about the people that keep insisting, we don't know how Netflix calculates Raw. We don't know how they come up with this number. We don't know what the day 1 is or the day 6 is or what it was the first 24. Moron, it's 7 days of views. It doesn't matter if you watched at 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. They're just stuck from 20 years ago. These are the same people that still want to tell you what the old big data or old system. They don't want to adapt. They want you to believe that there's a cloud so they can keep throwing it up and keep making it vague and keep doing this, just like the other shit. Just like we talked about with Netflix censoring stuff. If you tuned into yesterday, you now know why Netflix blurs and censors and is very strict with WWE. You now know why. There's 3 very specific reasons. And no one out there that questions it. Now remember, not everybody questions Netflix's motives. They'll make fun of it and they'll rip Netflix for doing it, but they don't say, we don't know why. I'm confronting the people that over and over and over again, we don't know why. We don't have an answer. You do have an answer. You just won't acknowledge it. So every time it happens, you got a story. Because just imagine if they get the answer to the story, they can't bring it up no more. Can't bring it up no more. That's why there's so many bullshit articles out there that nobody clears up or nobody tries to get answers to, because they understand that as long as it keeps throwing out there, they could keep reporting it and keep bringing it up and keep bringing it up and keep bringing it up. So that's that. That is that. All right. Should we recap Raw now, or should we get into the Penta Unmasked? I do want to show you. We'll take a little quick tally in the chat room. Just the first couple of people, just throw it out there. Do you want, just write Raw or Penta? Raw or Penta? You'll decide to me which one we cover next. Do we recap Raw or Penta? So while we do that, somebody asked me last night to do this, so I decided I wanted to do it. This is the side-by-side of that graphic. You know, it was funny. I thought about it last night. You can't spell Aldis without AI. Aldis' last name, Nick Aldis. You cannot spell Aldis without AI. I mean, for those that are looking at the screen right now, asking, what the hell am I looking at? If you don't know, on the right, that is the actual SummerSlam graphic that Triple H put out to announce Gunther wrestling Nick Aldis at SummerSlam. On the left is a fan that photoshopped it and fixed it on his own. Now you say to me, you try to figure out to me, who in the fuck is that person on the right? Look at the eyebrows. Look at the hair. Look at the nose. Look at the mouth. That is not Nick Aldis. I thought that was Rutger Hauer and I don't remember the woman that's on Netflix. Somebody showed her. She looks like half man, half woman. If you take them both and had a love child, maybe that, I don't know who that is. I thought it was a tennis player from Wimbledon. I mean, you look at everything about it. That's not Nick Aldis. And WWE still is using that graphic. How awful is that? I mean, WWE is getting caught repeatedly using AI. And if you're going to use AI, use it good, man. I mean, how long does it take to just type back in a thing that doesn't look like Nick Aldis? Give me a better photo. Or take a render of Nick Aldis and say, AI, use this render. Use this render. Put it against Guta. You make sure you use this render. Don't change the eyes. What is that? Who is that? That's not Nick Aldis. Bond. James Bond. It does kind of look a little bit like Mr. Wonderful. It kind of does. It kind of does. But how awful is that? Somebody asked me, could you put Monday side by side? That is just god awful, man. God awful. I mean, when we do the SummerSlam replay, I think I might have to make the whole thumbnail. That's just bad. No, Benjamin. I say AI, when used correctly, definitely helps. You know, if I want to get a bunch of facts, you know, I will ask AI. I will always double check and I will always make sure. But if I say, hey, listen, could you give me a list of, I don't know, all the Intercontinental champions that won it twice over the last 15 years, that was born after 1991, that, you know, lives in the West Coast, that has the initials, anything with a vowel. You know, if I tell someone, they're going to hang up on me. If I tell my wife, she's going to throw the laptop in my face. If I tell AI, it'll take me 7 seconds and it'll give me the answer. Ooh, you know, you use it to help you a little bit. If I want to make a graphic and I can't find a font, I'll take a font that I like and I say, what font is this? Now I put it on there. I get an answer in 5 seconds. I go on whatfontisthis.com and I have to click banners, click here to answer this ad. Your page will load in 10 seconds. And meanwhile, I get no. And so AI definitely helps, but it shouldn't be a replacement. It should not be a replacement. You want to perfectly center something, you know, you want to use that, fine. I'm not saying that, you know, I praise it all the time. There's a lot of AI that's slop. There's a lot of slop. I fall for the slop sometimes, but it is definitely a tool. Listen, when AltaVista and Ask Jeeves and Yahoo first came out, a lot of people used to say the same thing. It wasn't just kind of like a Yellow Pages. Like, you would do research and you get all these answers in like 5-10 seconds. Oh my God, computers, it's changed. That's kind of what AI is. But it's dangerous too. It's dangerous. And yes, some people will turn around and fire people and only use a fucking computer. And to me, you know, that's wrong. Can't stop them for doing it. But I'm saying that there's no excuse for. You want to clean up a face a little bit? Hey, could you remove a couple of wrinkles? Make him look like he's 10 years younger? All right, fine. I don't know what the fuck that is. I don't know what that is. All right. So what do we got in the votes? Ooh, lots of Penta. Lots of Penta. All right, let's just get into the Penta thing. Very quickly, we'll recap Raw. Then we'll get out of here. Okay. There is a guy, I've never heard of him before, a social media influencer. His name is, I'm looking at my notes, his name is Neon. But it's not spelled Neon, it's N3ON. Now, I guess he's a wrestling fan. I think he's a wrestling fan. He doesn't look like a bad guy, I want to make it clear, but he's someone, obviously, that you know what social media influencers are. You know what they are. I mean, it's a special kind of breed of people. All right. this guy is one of them. He goes on Kick. Now, me, especially when you think of Raja Jackson, to me, if you're a Kick streamer, to me, there's already a red flag. All right, Kick streamers, I think, are the most troublesome out of all. I almost feel like it's like Guantanamo Bay for streamers. You got like real like terrorists and god-awful people. I'm not saying that Kick streamers are god-awful, but it's like, what do you do with the derelicts that you don't even want to like help rehabilitate? We'll just send them to Guantanamo Bay. We'll just send them to Guantanamo Bay and just, what do they want to do? Let them jump in the ocean. Let them get eaten by crocodiles. In fact, let's film it. It's the Kick to me is where like a lot of people go where they think they could get away with shit, and again, not everybody is like that. I'm not saying that he's like that, but most times every time I come across a Kick streamer, there's usually something goes wrong. So this guy, now let's use common sense. Now, obviously, here's the problem, my friends. He clickbaits, he over dramatizes, he does the same poses, and I'll have 700,000 subscribers. Me, I use common sense, I get 35,000. So there's nothing that I'm going to do that is going to end up generating that kind of volume. Even if I got in better shape and started showing you my tits, I don't even think that would do it. So this guy, we know what he's about. Use common sense. Today is Monday. Fanatics was over the weekend. From an incident that happened in Fanatics to this morning, this guy goes on social media and tells the world he's being sued by Penta and Penta's legal team for showing Penta's face on a live stream. Okay? I want you to hear straight from his mouth what he claimed. This is Neon. Oh, it'd be nice if I fucking do audio, right? Be nice if I do audio. Let me, hold on. Here's the audio. Okay, now we got it. Here you go.
You're mad because I leaked a guy's face that I had no idea. Bro, it was not my fault. It was not my fault. They told him he could take his thing off. They told me I could stream in there. We both collided and it didn't work. And shit happens, bro.
So far, he's absolutely right. He didn't intentionally do that. I want to make this clear. This guy did not intentionally film Penta. He actually was filming Stephanie Vicaire. All right? Listen to a few more seconds of it.
We're going to see. Yo, wait, watch him out. Penta wants to fight you? Brother.
All right. I'm not going to give any more of that. All right? But it goes on. And he continues to say that Penta and his lawyers are going to sue him. Now, Fanatics happened this weekend. It's Monday morning. I kind of don't believe that Penta contacted his lawyers, somehow was able to find his name and address, and then had his lawyers draft up something and contact the streamer all in about 2 hours. And then this guy says he saw it. So again, here's someone being over fucking dramatic about what happened. So here's the whole world reports it now. 700,000 followers. You say you're going to be sued from Penta? Just an accident, and obviously you blow it out of proportion. So again, you look at him, fine. I mean, I don't know anything about him. But now I'm going to show you the incident. And I am going to show you Penta's face. And I kind of think I will not be sued over it, because when you see it, you will realize this motherfucker has a shitload of face paint on. So you can't see his face. But I want you to see how it went down. I'm going to have to pause it perfectly, and we will be able to pause it, and then you will see Penta's face. All right? So this is how it went down. Now, again, My only problem with this guy is telling the world he's being sued. All right, because when a security guy says, hey, you can't film, listen, take that shit down. All right. Even if somebody said, I'll break your fucking legs if you don't take that down. All right. You don't have to take it down if you don't want to, but to try to make yourself look like a victim, I'm going to be sued over this. That reminds me of that jackass with the fucking Star Wars Legos or whatever, Righteous Reg or whatever the guy's name was. That guy was such a bullshit artist. People all feeling bad for that guy. And somebody said, why don't you watch the video and give him a shot? I watched the video and the first thing I see is he's in his tighty whities in his underwear in front of a closed door. I'm like, I'm supposed to support this guy that shows up just wearing nothing but Hanes? The hell am I watching? Like, these are weird people, man. These are weird people. Look at the way this guy's dressing. I mean, again, I'm not saying he's a bad person, but this is Guantanamo Bay for streamers. So here's how it went down. He's at Fanatics. He sees Stephanie Vicaire. Obviously, the place is not open yet. All right. This is my perception of what I'm watching. It's not open yet. You don't have fans all over the place. The wrestlers are obviously setting up their tables, getting themselves ready, relaxing a little bit, and somehow somebody let this motherfucker in because he's got 700,000 subscribers. It's just like WWE Raw. Look, Corey, it's Lil whatever, whatever. I can't make fun of Lil Yachty anymore because I like him now. But, look, Corey, it's blah, 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 blah. And you realize, who the hell's blah, 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 blah. And then you realize, oh, he's got 440,000 subscribers. Like, you get subscribers, you get hand jobs. This guy was allowed in because he's not a Make-A-Wish kid. He's not a cancer survivor. He's not on his deathbed. It's because he has 700,000 subscribers. So now he's in an area that shouldn't have anybody there. And as he sees Stephanie Vicaire walking by his Penta with the mask off. And here's what happened.
We're gonna make her like me. Hello, how you guys doing?
Hey.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
No camera?
I use mask.
Yeah.
Can you delete this, please?
Oh, yes. I will.
You take something with
I'll delete. We're gonna make her like.
All right. So you saw for half a second Penta walk by. I give him credit. They didn't put the camera back on him. All right. But this was streamed live. Live. When it's live, it's archived, even if you delete it shortly after. So now we will do what we should do because we're just covering. We will find the spot. And before we find the spot, I want to show you Stephanie Vicaire's desk. Yeah, let's show here. Let's just do this close shortly. Hold on. Wait. Okay. Here we go. He's walking by. You're going to see Stephanie Vicaire. Here we go. All right. That's Stephanie Vicaire, right? But you see her in the corner. Now, as he does this, watch closely. There you go. That's there you go. And yes, we will blow it up. Penta left his mask on Stephanie Vicaire's desk. Penta has face paint on. He's got a whole bunch of dye. He's got the fucking contact lenses on. That's what Penta was wearing. Now, quite honestly, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It was a half a fucking second. And Penta had, to me, enough makeup on that let me put it this way. If that guy carjacked me right now and I gave a description, all right, I don't think AI is going to be able to say, hey, remove the clown's makeup and tell me who that person is. Like, I still can't deter. All I could see is that it's a Latin guy wearing a black shirt with a lot of jewelry, wearing some fake contact lenses with a lot of face paint on that has short black hair. Gee, you're like, I'm not Latin, but I mean, come on, man. So this was not a big deal. This was not a big deal, but that's what happened. Now, again, you look at the desk. I mean, let's be honest. Why is your mask sitting on Stephanie Vicare's desk? I get it. Fans should not have been in there yet. Whoever let him in is the one that I think is responsible. To be honest with you, I don't think this guy, this kick streamer, really did anything wrong. I think he was trying to talk to Stephanie Vicaire, and this Penta walks by, and obviously Penta doesn't want his likeness out there, and, you know, he got very upset. And the problem is this guy streamed it live. He streamed it live. So now everybody has it. So now, the next day, I believe this is now the next day, I believe. And this guy, Neon, is approached by a security guard. And this is what happens.
My guy, look, yesterday you guys took a video of the guy with the wrestler with his face painted.
Okay.
And you posted it. So today,
I didn't post it, I was live.
I saw it on TikTok. But I saw it.
I didn't post it.
But I'm just saying, like, so you can't record it.
Okay, just no recording in there. No recording video pictures in this set. All right, I'm gonna go in and get something and come back. BRB.
Not a big deal. He lied, obviously, but that's all it was. That's all it was. So basically, this is for a quarter of a second is what happened on his live stream. And now this guy is telling the world he's being sued because he put Penta's likeness out there. Why are we calling this out? Because if you just would have left it alone and just take the video down, people would have moved on with their lives. Even if some people kept the audio. But by you now saying that Penta and his lawyers are going after you, and you put out this fucking video acting like a victim, you're using this to put attention on yourself. That's where this motherfucker goes wrong. If he truly was apologetic about it, he would have taken the clip down and moved on, or blurred the image, blur his face. It's a quarter of a second. How long do you think that takes? I could probably do it live on the show right now if I wanted to. But the minute this guy puts on a fucking retarded Jerry the King Lawler crown on his head with some fucking, prop wearing fur or leopard, and then he's crying that he's the victim here, you don't give a shit about Penta. And you're now making this about you. You want the whole world. Yes, we're covering it because now it's Penta, without the mask. I'm not trying to be disrespectful for Penta. I'm not trying to be disrespectful at all. But, I'm talking about this guy that accidentally does it, and then he makes it about him. So I just figured I'd share it with you. I figured you'd want to see it, right? Listen, I guarantee you, many of you out there, like yours truly, have Googled, what does Dragon Lee look like without a mask? What does Ray Phoenix look like without a mask? What does El Nicho El Millonario look like? Well, I hung out with some of them back in the day, so I know what they look like without a mask. Halloween, Damien 666. I hung out with them numerous times without makeup. I know exactly what they look like. The only time I ever took a picture of them is I said, can I take a picture? And they took a picture without makeup on. I have the photos still. But, you ask, this was an accident. But this guy took an accident and then made it about him being a victim. So I wanted to share it with you. I figured it was an interesting enough news story because we get to see Penta. That's what Penta walks around looking like when he's not wearing a mask. My only question is, listen, you see the Deli Man mask over there? I did Deli Man twice. It is not very comfortable to wear a mask, especially in a hot environment, let alone your breath. At least with Penta, the bottom is open. You wear a full mask like I wore twice, You know, after 5 minutes, you smell your breath. And you could have 1,000 certs in your mouth. After 5-10 minutes, those certs go away and you're smelling your breath. I smelled like I fucked a horse. It smelled like horse. I mean, it just smelled awful. And I'm like, oh my God, my breath is awful. And there's nothing you could do about it. You know, so I get why sometimes you don't want to wear a mask, but, you know, sucks on Penta. Sucks on Penta, man. All right, let's recap Raw a little bit. Let's get into Raw. Where is my Raw graphic? Oh, one little news tidbit. I wanted to mention this early, just for the hell of it. I don't know if it's a story yet. Maybe we'll have an update Wednesday. But a lot of people are starting to realize Sammy Guevara took AEW out of his profile on X. He now just says world champion, husband, father, and pro wrestler. You know, anybody out there that has an X account, you know how to update your profile. When you work for a very public company for that many years, and you just, for the hell of it, go on social media, go on your profile, hit edit, remove the letters AEW, and click save, you know that eventually everybody's going to notice that. I don't think he's trolling. I don't know where this goes, but it's very interesting that Sammy Guevara has removed AEW off of his profile. Again, when you think about when you update a profile, you, especially somebody who's a pro wrestler, public figure, they know everybody will notice it, and he still took it out. Now, what's very interesting, I think some people probably don't think about this with Sammy Guevara, is he's been in AEW now for what, 7 years? It's got to be about 7 years, right? You know, I remember when Sammy Guevara, when we first saw him, the guy was like 24, 25. Sammy Guevara now is going to turn 33. You know, like, this is a guy now, he's no longer a kid. This is a guy that's going to be approaching his middle 30s in a year. And, you know, you realize, wow, you know, does he possibly fall into that category? Because listen, over the years, I've been doing this since 1997 with Wrestling Hotlines. And over the years, I get asked this repeatedly, like, who's a couple of people that should have gone so much further in wrestling, but for some reason didn't? You're like, oh, who, you know, just really, you just thought, wow, that person has amazing. I mean, when do we start putting Sammy Guevara on that list? I mean, the Spanish God. I mean, do we look back on it now? He's approaching his middle 30s. When do we say, you know what? This guy should have been so much further in his wrestling career. And maybe he is happy where he is at. Maybe this is exactly how he mapped out his wrestling career. I don't know. But I think we should start possibly putting that name in there because, listen, look at it like this. He's closer to 40 than 25. If you think about it, he's closer to 40 than 25. So just goes to show you how quickly some people age. So, all right. There's my Raw graphic. And fuck it, one last time. There you go, one last time. You know, it was funny. Stephanie McKenna didn't have a clue in the world. She wasn't like, Penta, turn the other way. Penta, look out. I love Stephanie McKenna. I have nothing against Stephanie McKenna. She's great. All right, let's recap Raw. This is going to be easy because this show, wouldn't call it uneventful, but nothing that really like blew me away. We open up with a wrestling match. Yes, they recapped Saturday night's main event. You know, we talked about that yesterday, but they open up with a match, and we had Braun Breaker and Austin Theory defeat Dragon Lee and Javon Evans. Braun Breaker with a vicious spear to Javon Evans, basically knocking him out for the count. And Braun hits a spear to Dragon Lee, who usually eats the pin, if you notice. But they're building on how Braun does the spear with Austin Theory holding the person. So Austin Theory falls too. So it just shows like Braun is so, his momentum is so forceful that he even knocks down Austin Theory. That's what they're doing. And they got the win. And after the match is over, Braun and Austin Theory immediately start double teaming Javon Evans, post-match beatdown. And all of a sudden you hear Alpha Academy's music hit. And you knew this was happening. And they come down to ringside, and it's funny because Otis can't run. And Otis, sometimes when he can't run, he tries to run, but then when he starts running, he can't stop. And he was running like he does down the rampway, and he gets close to Braun Breaker, and he realizes that he's got to slow up a little bit. And if you look at it, anybody ever watch the Flintstones? You ever watch when Fred Flintstone bowls and he tippy-toes and you hear that dumb sound effect when he tippy-toes and throws the ball? If you look at Otis closely, like as he's slowing up, it looks like he's tippy-toeing and then he hits the clothesline. Tozawa doing his best Michael J. Fox impersonation, if we're being honest. He hits the ring and he's just flailing like this. Just that's his way of trying to beat someone up. To me, it's like when you're dating like a 105-pound girl and you're like 6'6", and she catches you cheating and she just, hates you and she just wants to like beat the shit out of you, but she's 105 pounds and doesn't have any muscle whatsoever. And she has no strength either, and she'll just go up to you and she'll go, I hate you, 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 I hate. That's what Tozawa does. Tozawa looks like a 105-pound girl trying to beat up a 6'6" guy. He does nothing. So what happens? The Vision get the upper hand. Austin Theory, more specifically, Maxine Dupree slaps Otis in the face. Me, I would have turned around and be like, oh yeah, give me more. Actually, if you really wanted to be an asshole, you could look at Maxine and go, again. Think natty. You know why I say that? So they leave him laying. And as we expected, they get the tag team title shot next week. Meanwhile, where are the Street Profits? I think we should now say, it's not we want the smoke. They're up in smoke. Stick a prong in the Street Profits. They're done. You know what it reminds me of with WWE Creative and the Street Profits right now? Remember, the Street Profits we didn't see on TV for a while. They did like an NXT show. They did a house show. Montez Ford looked like he gained 40 pounds and then somehow lost it in about 6 days. The way WWE treated the Street Profits recently, this is the best way I could put it, and I think a lot of you will agree. You have a relationship and you break up. And the breakup isn't all that great, but you just stop talking to each other. And you don't talk for a while. And then all of a sudden you bump into each other and you're like, maybe we could put it back together. And you get back together for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then you realize, like one side realize like, oh no, fuck it. And they just stop calling you. And you're like, what the hell? Like, what the hell just happened? Like, that's kind of what they did with the Street Profits. Like, they got back together. We'll put you back on TV. We'll put the titles on you. We want the smoke. Yeah, we'll put you this and that. They get their moment on TV and not even on a premium live event because you don't deserve it. And I could only imagine them watching Jinder Mahal's video about the pot. Have you watched the pot? Oh, no pot for Montez Ford. No pot for Angelo Dawkins. They just disappeared again. They fucking disappeared again. I mean, my God, seriously, I think in the last 5 years, the way WWE used the Street Profits might be the worst of it all. I mean, I get it. Cross with the fucking helmet is up there. And there's a few others that were just god awful. But man, just the way they've treated the Street Profits. I mean, such an easy team to put over. You got the fans behind them. They got a great look. They gel together. They're very well liked. They stay out of trouble. They have a lot of, cardio. They could work. Montez Ford is a nut the way he dives. It just, like, I could picture Montez Ford standing in front of my house and, like, I'm playing Frisbee with my nephew, and my nephew, like, accidentally, like, throws the Frisbee on the roof. And Montez is, like, hanging over my house, too. And I'm like, Montez, I'll be right back. I got to get a ladder. I got a Frisbee. He fucking dick threw it on the roof. And Montez Ford, no, you don't need a ladder. Don't worry about it. And he fucking, like, goes on a milk crate. And next thing I know, he dives on top of the roof and grabs it. The guy's a nut. I mean, you see everything about those two guys, and they just can't put it. They can't do it. I don't get it. It's like the easiest. They're one of the easiest teams to push. And they're off TV again. Just off TV. I don't even know if they're at Fanatics. Seriously. I think Bianca's finger, the one we talked about, yes, I think it's her middle finger. I mean, if I'm Montez Ford, I literally would, like, hold my wife's hand and just look at the camera and say, hey, Triple H. And you literally just, say, honey, give me a hand for a second. And you just go like this. And not only is it a big fuck you, but she's got the pair, looks like my body. That's like a big fuck you. You take that middle finger and you throw that one out there. It's kind of, what's that? I'm trying to remember what movie that was. I think it was it Stripes? Who was the trucker? Somebody gave him the finger. It was like an 80s movie. Somebody gave him the finger, and the guy turned around and saw it, and it was like somebody gave him the finger. I don't know if it was Stripes, but I don't remember what movie it was. Anyway, we're getting off track here. Only because Raw was kind of missable tonight. Danhausen overload tonight. Danhausen overload. Danhausen has had nothing but problems with the Judgment Day. Danhausen wants to give the Judgment Day back their human monies. Their human monies. Get this big bag. So he doesn't know what to do with the bag. Doesn't want to give it to the Judgment Day, but he's having problems with the Judgment Day. So he goes down to the ring and he says to the fans, should I give it to the Fanhausens? And the fans obviously pop. Unfortunately, the fans, especially the older ones, are like, oh my God, it's kind of like the Body Slam Challenge. Danhausen's going to be like Andre the Giant and throw loads of $100 bills in the crowd. No. Judgment Day come out. Liv, Dom, and JD. And they're in the ring with Danhausen, and they start beating down Danhausen. Liv Morgan grabs the big leather briefcase filled with human monies, runs to the back. She's got the briefcase. And JD and Dom are beating down Danhausen and say his name, and he appears. Joe Hendry comes out. And Joe Hendry makes the save, whatever. But Liv Morgan has the briefcase, the leather case filled with the human monies. So then we go back to backstage again, and the Judgment Day are there with the leather briefcase. And JD McDonough opens it up, pulls it out, and it's all fake money. It's Danhausen $1 trillion human monies. And JD's like, this is all fake money. And Danhausen's looking like, I don't know what you're talking about. So JD throws the leather briefcase off screen. We don't see it, but apparently he hit Obafemi with it. So Oba enters the picture, and he's got the briefcase in his hand. And I thought this was so funny the way it went down, because Oba doesn't know who threw the briefcase. So Oba looks at Danhausen and says, he did it. And you just hear JD McDonough go, snitch. And it was just funny, the timing. It was real. I mean, that might have been my highlight of the entire Raw, for real. It was just funny shit. And the next thing you know, the only thing I thought was stupid was Adam Pearce enters the picture. And Adam Pearce decides, you know what, let's clear this shit up. JD, you're going to have a match with Obafemi tonight. Obviously, he doesn't want that, but Oba is fine with it. Then Dom says, it's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. And Adam Pearce like, you know what? You're right. You're going to have a match with Joe Hendry. And if you go back and watch the segment again, they were upset that JD was going to take on Oba, but they were livid that Dom had to take on Joe Hendry. If you go back and watch the segment, they were more upset that Dom had to take on Joe Hendry. So what happens? Oba squashes Jaden McDonough. Like that. Squashes him. Beats him 1, 2, 3. Quick message for Brock. See him at SummerSlam. Not too much with that, but very, very quick match. Next we have Solo Sikoa. And he's got a proposition for Seth Rollins. Seth, get out here. So somehow Seth was in the gorilla position with the music all queued up because you couldn't even count to 3 and you hear, you know, his entrance music hit. So he comes down to the ring. And again, this got me mad. This got me mad because we've been brainwashed with bloodline stuff. And Solo Sikoa warns Seth Rollins, Seth, it's not going to be you and Roman at SummerSlam. It's going to be you versus the bloodline. I should know. I was part of it. He's warning Seth. And Seth is just standing there. I'm saying to myself, this is horrible because Seth has been around this whole bloodline shit for years. We just had Rock and Roman and Cody and Seth and all this other shit. I mean, there's been nothing but bloodline stuff. Solo is warning him. I mean, if I was a real asshole, I would have said in return to Solo, hey, Solo, what are you going to warn me next? That, you know, that I better be careful because, you know, we have COVID. We had COVID. What are you going to warn me about? Like, seriously. Like, you're warning me about stuff that's been around for years. And he's warning Seth as if Seth knew nothing. And then the worst part about it is Seth goes, let me think about it. And that's not good enough for Solo Sikoa. So I was like, you don't understand. No, we understand clearly, but, you know, obviously to get a little friction. So what ends up happening, Jacob Fatu's music hits. Solo Sikoa bails out of the ring. Jacob Fatu standing in the corner looking outside the ring at Solo Sikoa talking smack. Seth Rollins is on the opposite side of the ring. After a few seconds of Jacob talking smack to Solo, who's outside the ring, he turns around and eats a super kick from Seth Rollins. Eats a super kick. So a little while later, we talked about this at the beginning of the show. Seth Rollins is walking in the back and he bumps into Jacob Fatu. I guess there's something where Jacob Fatu can't put his hands on Seth either. And I'm watching the Samoan Werewolf. I'm watching everything that I know about Jacob Fatu. I'm watching everything that's been built about, you know, his psyche. And I literally rewound the segment 5 times to write it word for word. And what happened was Seth Rollins looks at Jacob Fatu and he says, come on, hit me. But you can't. You can't, huh? I know this game. You're under strict orders from the tribal chief. It's not that Adam Pearce told Jacob Fatu you can't lay a hand on Seth. Seth's like, I know. He's pulling the Meltzer. I know everything. You have strict orders from the tribal chief. You can't put your fingers on me. So Seth looks at Jacob Fatu and says, hey, let me ask you a question. When I beat Roman at SummerSlam, do I get his title and the bag boy? And points at Jacob. Now, I would think it's storyline, even if Roman Reigns was there, Roman Reigns would beat the fuck out of him. Shut his fucking mouth. I know. You have strict orders. How do you know? Would you talk to BJ Bethel? It was so stupid. But then Jacob Fatu comes back with this. Jacob says this. Now just picture this. Then think about the Samoan werewolf and Cali and Street, the Hood and all this stuff. He looks at Seth and says, tonight, you got one up on me. Better not happen no more. Better not happen no more. But if it does, I'm going to beat your ass. So everybody pops it. I'm going to beat your ass. Just imagine the Samoan werewolf looked at him and said, Seth, you got one up on me today. Better not happen no more. Better not happen no more. That's a Samoan werewolf. It was just awful, man. It just made him look like a fool. It's not anything to lose sleep over. I'm not crapping on Jacob Fatu. Obviously, that was fed to him. It was just so stupid. You know, very, very bad. Very bad. Better not happen no more. No more. So, Penta. This Penta. Him and Chad Gable beat Rusev and Ethan Page. As Fade on X said, the most amazing, unbelievable finish. These two guys work amazing together. How this match ended, Rusev had the accolade on Chad Gable. Chad Gable was able to reverse it into an ankle lock. Then Rusev pushes back. Chad Gable hits the corner. Penta falls on the floor. Rusev goes to put the accolade on once again, and Chad Gable turns it into an ankle lock. Ethan Page tries to hit the ring. I don't know why, because Rusev had the accolade on. So Penta decides, I'm going to run back in the ring, and I'm going to run on Chad Gable's back and hit a Mexican Destroyer on Ethan Page. And then the referee rules for the bell because Rusev tapped out. Wasn't a bad finish, but it wasn't this epic, amazing, unbelievable finish. But that's how it finished. After the match was over, Chad Gable looks at the title. He gives it to Penta out of respect. Michael Cole said tonight, is Chad going to win his first singles title in front of his home family and friends in Minnesota? Now, yes, he was the Speed Championship. We're not supposed to remember that because it was El Grande Americano, remember. But the thing is, starting to make me wonder. Chad Gable, many people believe, will win in Minnesota. Get that moment, even though it's a secondary title. Or I think maybe Chad Gable should turn heel again, man. I mean, this clap, everybody's doing it, but I don't feel momentum. I don't feel momentum. I almost feel that maybe Chad Gable, if he loses at SummerSlam, he looks at the title, he gives it to Penta, holds his hand up high, and then fucking nails him. Nails him. Because I don't know, man. This Chad Gable change doesn't feel organic. It feels like they found a 1990s-esque WCW music theme that was never used. And that's what it sounds like. It sounds like a 1990s WCW song. And he's doing the clap. And I just feel his edge is missing. He's got the intensity, and we root for him. And I want this motherfucker to go to the top. But this is Triple H and creative, man. You know, this is not Undertaker. Everybody fell in love with Undertaker with Triple A and shit like that. But this is Bruce Pritchard and Michael Hayes and all the other people in the back and Triple H. Show me the track record with Chad Gable outside of El Grande Americano where they've given him a good run. Where the hell are the Creed brothers? Where are they? It's just, I don't know. I'm a little concerned about this, but we don't have to do predictions until next week, so. A serious Paul Heyman promo. Three things I took from the Paul Heyman promo. Number one, Paul Heyman says that Obafemi has had the greatest rookie year since Brock Lesnar. I would say this. It hasn't even been 6 months. Let's have it go a year. Then we say that. He was brought to the main roster earlier this year. It hasn't been a full year yet. I understand why Paul Heyman is saying this now, but it hasn't been a year yet. Oba wins, doesn't have to be the world title, but if Oba wins a championship on the main roster and continues this momentum into the Royal Rumble, then I will say yes, I believe Obafemi has had the best rookie year since Brock Lesnar. You know, it's just over the years, we forget wrestlers who have come in with amazing momentum and have an unbelievable first year. All right, just because you're super over doesn't mean you had a super year. All right, when you dissect it, outside of Oba and Brock Lesnar, what has Oba done on the main roster? Seriously, I'm not criticizing the man, but you take away Brock, what has he done in the first 6 months? Hasn't done as much as you think. You know, gotten better on the mic, presence is amazing, aura is awesome. The ruler is definitely here to stay. But, you know, it's not this, you know, I think some people forget what Brock Lesnar did in, 2002, whatever year it was. But Paul Heyman also brings up that he called Oba overrated. Instead of overrated, Oba-rated. I like that. I do believe sometime in the future, Paul Heyman will be the advocate for Obafemi. It's got to happen. It's got to happen. Don't know when, don't know where, don't know how, but it's got to happen. Then Paul Heyman reminds us that Brock Lesnar is undefeated at Hell in a Cell. And I knew that he feuded with The Undertaker in Hell in a Cell, but I was trying to think back, like, who else did he face in Hell in a Cell? He's undefeated. So I did a little quick research and I found the answer, and the answer is nobody. Brock has been in 2 Hell in a Cells in his career, both against The Undertaker. He fought Undertaker No Mercy 2002, and he fought at Hell in a Cell 2015. That's it. But still impressive nonetheless. So Brock will be 2-1 after this SummerSlam. Because if Oba loses this time around, it's not that Oba is overrated, but, you know, the way this is being propped up, Oba has to get the victory here. I don't even think it's a question. When those betting odds get updated, man, those betting odds are going to be pretty fucking one-sided, man. I think Oba will be at least 90 to 95% favorite to win. And that's not an exaggeration. I think that's truly what the betting odds will be. So, we had more Shield reminders. This time, loads of Dean Ambrose included. And if anybody saw the clip tonight that they showed about the Shield's history, you know what it almost felt like to me tonight? I know everybody else thought about this too. But, you know, WWE usually will try to hide people who are now prospering in AEW. They don't show it on your TV because they don't want to remind you that they're prospering somewhere else. Tonight, when I watched the clips, there was so much Dean Ambrose included in it, especially when you just saw them posing. I thought to myself, I was like, you know, I wonder if WWE's starting to get this mentality like, we'll just fucking throw all the images of anybody that's in AEW right now that's been around. Like, we'll just fucking remind everyone that this is where they actually made their money. You know, it was just interesting to see like how much, it wasn't a giant amount, but they were putting clips on TV that they absolutely did not need to put. It felt like they went out of their way to show the 3 of them, almost to be like, yeah, AEW, what are you going to do about that? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Sue us? What do you think we're, you know, Queen in the Ring? You think we're Trilla? You can't sue us. You know, he was here. We could show him all we want. You know, we could show him with a potted plant. You can't do nothing about it. It was just strange because I felt the footage we saw today unnecessary. Unnecessary. So, just to close out Raw, Joe Hendry beats Dominic Mysterio. Liv interferes. Danhausen tries to put a stop to it. Goes down to the rampway. Liv lays him out. So Danhausen, being the Manhausen that he is not going to fight back and be, a wife abuse Hausen. So he walks to the back and brought out Io Sky. And it's kind of funny because someone super chatted me yesterday and asked me, how would I use Io Sky the next 2 weeks? And I said, she'll probably come out and help someone. And then we'll probably see Sol Ruca against either Roxanne Perez or Raquel Rodriguez. Sol Ruca will retain. There'll be a post-match beatdown and Io Sky will make the save. Well, that's what's coming next week. Sol Ruca is defending against Raquel Rodriguez next week. And you know exactly what's coming. So Danhausen returns with Io Sky. So Io Sky takes care of business with Liv Morgan. And then as the referee is distracted with Io Sky and Liv Morgan brawling outside the ring, here comes Danhausen with what they're calling the Danhausen death drop. It's kind of like, it kind of reminds you like this, like with Sting's finisher. It's fine. I mean, but it just kind of sucked the way they used Dominic today. So Joe Hendry, the opportunist, sees Dominic laid out, pins him. So Joe Hendry beats Dominic Mysterio. So guess what match is happening at SummerSlam? We're now getting Danhausen versus Dominic Mysterio at SummerSlam. Yes. So, main event tonight. Jacob Fatu defeats LA Knight. Once again, LA Knight cuts a promo, shooting, talking personal towards Roman. It's nothing. It's to make the people feel online, see, LA Knight is just as frustrated as we are. LA Knight is going to talk himself back into the main event. Sure. Snap into it. We have the match, and it's okay, Next thing you know, you get a whole bunch of interference. Royce Keys, by the way, is there as well. We see Jimmy Uso with Jacob Fatu earlier. No Jay. Remember, the last couple of weeks, Jay has been absent ever since we found out that his wife was filing for divorce. No Jay Uso. We know Jimmy is there. We know Royce Keys is there. We know Solo Sikoa is there. And we know Jacob Fatu is there. So Jacob and LA Knight are having their usual match because they fought before. And then the next thing you know, Jimmy Uso comes out. Jimmy Uso tries to interfere. And it was interesting because, to me, Jimmy Uso at some points came off as a heel more than anything else. And then Solo Sikoa shows up and he teases the Samoan spike to Jimmy Uso, and then Jacob Fatu dives to the outside onto Solo Sikoa. Jimmy took a little bit of a fall as well, inadvertently. And as all this is going on, now you got Royce Keys that is outside. And next thing you know, Jey Uso's music hits. And the crowd goes nuts. Whatever we say about Jey Uso is no denying the live crowd loves their Jey Uso. He comes out there, you start having all this brawling going on. LA Knight at one point gets tossed outside the ring. You see Royce Keys threw, I believe, Jimmy Uso over the announcer's table to neutralize him for a little bit. But then what ends up happening is LA Knight goes back in the ring, turns around, and eats a Samoan drop. And then Jacob Fatu does that beautiful moonsault. Jumps to the middle rope, jumps to the top rope, does the moonsault. pins LA Knight. 1, 2, 3. And right after the match is over, we get an all-out brawl. Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Jacob Fatu, LA Knight, Royce Keys, Solo Sikoa set up SummerSlam. What ends up happening is, I guess the three, wouldn't even call it baby faces because I still don't feel Solo Sikoa is a baby face. I don't know what you call it because Jimmy Uso was acting like a heel, but Jey Uso was getting cheered like fuck. Fans still are into Jacob Fatu. You had the Usos hit 1D on pretty much everyone. Then you had LA Knight laid out in the corner, and both Usos and Jacob Fatu proceeded to run across the ring and do that, that butt shot. They dive into the corner post and their butt hits the middle rope. So it makes a nice sound, and it looks like you're whiplashing LA Knight's head, but just the bottom of your butt cheek kind of connects a little bit. Thank God, because LA Knight be in a hospital right now if they connected the way they did. Very well done. But then you have them hitting 1D on LA Knight. Jey Uso climbs the top rope, hits the splash. And as I'm watching all this, I'm like, yeah, LA Knight's in line for a push, man. Keep calling those promos because it ain't doing nothing. It ain't doing nothing. We know what it is. It's this rinse and repeat, same old shit with LA Knight and the Usos, LA Knight and the Bloodline for how many years now? I don't care how many times LA Knight gets on the microphone, charismatic or not, spitting truth bombs or not, all right, it's not changing a damn thing. The only way LA Knight will ever become world champion is if a few people get injured, have to leave because of movies, or somebody fails wellness, somebody retires early, and a spot opens up. That's the only way this shit's going to happen. All right, or you're going to get a run, maybe not exactly like Sami Zayn, but you're going to get something where it lasts for a cup of coffee. He finally finished his story, and then 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, he drops the title. You're not going to suddenly make LA Knight the centerpiece. Sorry, Sean. I mean, I'm a huge LA Knight supporter. But I don't close my eyes and envision him appearing on Fox News the next morning with the World Heavyweight Championship sitting on his side. I don't picture him doing all these media rounds, talking about how he battled and scraped and clawed for 10, 20 years and this and that and had to go do this and finally get to the... No, I don't see any of that. I see him cutting promos for Slim Jim commercials and random commercials and maybe even do whatever you do, start your engines for a car race, maybe throw out the first pitch somewhere. That's where I see him. Maybe appear on an ESPN. It's not that I don't want to see more, but I just don't envision WWE suddenly doing that. Why? I just don't see it. I almost feel like LA Knight may need to turn heel. I think, everybody thought, CM Punk's turning heel. Cody's turning heel. Look at Seth. Seth's being a dick. You see that, Miss G? I think out of any of them, I think LA Knight might be the one that needs to turn heel. I think he needs to turn heel. We'll see. But that was your Raw tonight. I tried to make it a little bit more interesting than what it was. By the way, before we give you next week's lineup and SummerSlam, the updated card, just a reminder, Season 3 of WWE Unreal is dropping today because we're now Tuesday the 21st. Unreal drops today. So I don't know if I'll be watching it early enough that we'll have thoughts on Wednesday, but if not Wednesday, by this weekend or on Monday next week, we'll comment a little bit about Season 3. I will be watching. I will definitely be watching. I think this season is going to feel different than Season 1 and Season 2. You know what I think WWE's Unreal is turning into? And I have a feeling a lot of you are going to agree with me on this. outside of COVID, for several years, WWE would do these little documentaries, like just following someone leading into like WrestleMania. I'll give you an example, Ultimate Warrior. Remember when Ultimate Warrior returned, he had the meeting, they were looking at merchandise, and he was going to show here, and he was going to do Hall of Fame, and this and that. Like, they followed him for like that weekend. You have someone else, they followed him. When CM Punk made his return a couple of weeks ago, they did a little documentary following the... I kind of feel that this is what WWE Unreal is starting to turn into. It's kind of like, it's not that it's like really showing what we're not supposed to see, but doing like a documentary, just giving a different side of the people involved and why this was special or why this is important or why this meant this or why this meant that. I don't think it's going to be as much as Michael Hayes putting down Chelsea Green or LA Knight looking around acting like he has no idea what's going on, even though there's these big white lights in his face. You know, I mean, God bless LA Knight for talking bullshit to those amateur podcasters. That fucking one Indian guy, man. Very nice, very nice. And I'm like, oh, I feel so bad for you. LA Knight's just spitting bullshit. I had no idea. Yeah, I had no idea. These cameras are all around. I had no idea. No, big fucking white hot lights in your face. You had no idea. You know. So I think this Unreal might be the best season of the three. And I'm not even exaggerating. I think this is going to feel more of those behind the scenes leading up to WrestleMania, behind the scenes before AJ Lee returned, behind the scenes. I think that's what this is going to be. So anyway, your lineup for next week's Raw. Division defending the tag titles against Alpha Academy. Sal Ruka defending her championship against Raquel Rodriguez. Expect the EO save. Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins will have a face-to-face. Contract signing wasn't... I mean, obviously, we need a go-home confrontation. I think they'll brawl, even though they're not supposed to touch each other. I mean, yeah, at this point, you got to do something. Brock Lesnar and Obafemi will have a weigh-in. So they will have a weigh-in. So, obviously, my condolences to the family of the scale, because that shit will be probably turned upside down, thrown outside the ring, and destroyed. Danhausen and Joe Hendry will have a concert, which will be obviously interrupted by the Judgment Day. So that's what they advertise for next week's Raw. I honestly think it'll be a very entertaining Raw. Take note that there's no matches that really kind of stand out. With all due respect, Alpha Academy versus Division. Remember when the Usos won the tag titles early this year? And we're like, holy shit, they're back together. They're finally starting to use Jey Uso the right way again. Oh, this is awesome. They're remember their first title defense? Alpha Academy. Alpha Academy. I don't know. For some reason, I can't get enough of that picture. I just envision, like, if I was going to, like, in the middle of the night break into somebody's house, that's probably how I would dress. That's exactly how I would dress. I'm not even kidding when I say that. I honestly feel like that's how I would dress. I just imagine somebody calling the cops. Like, I don't know, some guy with, like, short black hair that had all his fucking black face paint on and white, so he doesn't look racist, you know, kind of looking like a low-budget clown. Fucking tried to break into my house. All I remember is he had a nice jewelry. You know, I like Penta. I am a big fan of Penta. I'm not trying to disrespect him. He's wearing face paint. He's wearing fucking face paint. Halloween wore face paint. I'm sorry for bringing up old school, but there's a lot of Lucha Libre guys who wore face paint. Mr. Iguana wears face paint. All right? Just because parts of the cheeks, skin color doesn't... That, to me, that wasn't a big deal. I don't blame Penta for being upset, but I didn't think it was as big of a deal. That fucking guy made it a big deal because he tried to make it all about him. So I made it all about me. Just a reminder, check out this week's history show. this weekend's history show. It was a good one. This was a fun one. Definitely need to get into that. We'll get into some super shout outs. By the way, I took a shot of my dogs today. Took them to the park. They were having a ball, man. They were having a ball. That's Bruno and Bella. They were a little bit pooped. So that was them in the car today. So that's why I'm the dog father. That's why I'm the dog father. All right. Couple of quick shout outs. We're going to wrap this up in about 10, 15 minutes. This is 4 shows in 3 days, man. 4 shows in 3 days. Got to get used to that a little bit more. I want to give a shout out to Craig Rode Jr. Thank you for the generosity, my friend. He's a new fan of wrestling. He loves AAA. He feels he's not getting the whole event when he watches on YouTube. Can I explain to him more how AAA works when it comes to broadcast? And he loves the money machine. I guess he means El Grande Americano. El American. Let me put it like this. With AAA, there's a couple of buildings that they frequent in Mexico. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm this big scholar about AAA. I mean, I've watched AAA as early as like 1992 in my life. 91, 92, when you would have a very, very young Rey Mysterio Jr. and you would hear those dumb air horns and that giant fucking Corona logo in the middle. I mean, I go back a long ways, but as far as AAA now, there's a couple of buildings that they frequent. But what AAA doesn't do, for the most part, is they don't do house shows where it's even in front of like 1,000 people or 2,000 people, so to speak. Like, they will have these events, and they're not premium live events, and at the same time, they're not like big, I don't want to say glorified house shows, but what they'll do is they'll have an event in Mexico and they will tape TV. Sometimes they'll do something live, obviously, but they will tape a week or two of TV. I'm trying to remember who's Elio who's the wrestler who just got injured? Elio de Dr. Wagner, right? I think he just recently had the injury. You know, everybody was reporting the injury, but then you saw advertised that, oh, he's in a match. And then you realize, oh, shit was taped. So what they'll do is they'll tape a week or two of wrestling, and then it'll air on their regular television. No, Viqueño I know about, but there was, I think Elio de Dr. Wagner also got injured. He got injured before Viqueño. Viqueño got injured, I think, in NXT, working earlier in the day. But I think it was the Dr. Wagner also. But AAA will do tapings for their local TV. Another thing you and this is probably the most important part of AAA that nobody really talks about, is you got to, Octagon Jr., thank you. I'm sorry for getting it wrong. I knew it was the son of somebody, Octagon Jr. Yes, thank you very much, mid-range. It was Octagon Jr. But here's the thing with AAA, the cost of living. You could get floor seats for $100, where you have a premium live event for NXT. I don't want to use WWE because it's unfair to compare WWE to AAA with the roster. But if you compare NXT premium live event to AAA, you want to sit front row for NXT, you could drop $2,000 easily. And with AAA, you could sit first 2 rows, $100, $140, $80 if you're lucky. The cost of living in Mexico is dramatically less. And I'm not trying to make this political, but when you hear so many people trying to cross the border illegally from Mexico, they're doing it to, a lot of times, to try to have a better life for real. Because just imagine working there and getting paid $20 a week. I mean, that might be exaggerated in some places, but it is a very, very poor country. Not everywhere, but the cost of living is dramatically less. You'll have events and ticket prices will start at $10. And that's normal. So that's why when WWE, they have tours of Mexico, you'll look and you'll see the places where they go. They'll go more in like the tourist areas, but even when they go there, look up ticket prices. The next time WWE has a house show in Mexico, and when you look at the ticket prices, they are higher than AAA, but it is nowhere near where they would charge in other states in the United States. It is not even close. So why am I saying this? Because a lot of the wrestlers in AAA get paid a hell of a lot less than wrestlers in WWE. Even the low-end WWE wrestlers. A lot of those wrestlers in AAA, believe me, again, I'm not an expert with AAA, but I even think, as much as I criticize Meltzer lately, I think he would even confirm to you guys that there are wrestlers there that don't make $100,000. Some may not even make $50,000. You know, when you really think about it. So because the expenditure and, you know, the revenue and the ticket sales is so much lower, you know, things are handled a lot differently there. That's why you don't have these, like Triple Mania is a different deal, and they're doing 2 nights now, and they're going to do 1 night in Vegas and 1 night in Mexico, and that's smart to do, because they will be able to incorporate WWE stars with this, and they'll be able to sell. Ticket prices will be nowhere near in Mexico. I mean, I can't wait for the ticket prices in Vegas compared to Mexico. Don't be surprised you hear tickets in Vegas going for $1,500 and same type of seats in Mexico going for 10% of that. So that's what they do. That's what they'll do. They'll do like TV tapings for 2-3 weeks. When you heard that they're going to do NXT and AAA together going up against AEW All In, AAA is only going to have a couple of matches. So it does remind me a little bit of old school ECW in the sense that when we used to, for anybody that's a little more old school with ECW, you'll remember this. When we used to watch ECW late at night on Saturdays weekly in the latter part of the 90s, even the mid to late 90s, for an hour, you might get just 2 matches. Sometimes you'd only get 1 match, but 2 matches, 3 if you're lucky, and trust me, one of those matches would be super, super quick. It would be a lot of promos, hyping up other events, you know, just try to sell videotapes, buying shirts. So you really didn't get like a shitload of wrestling. So when you're watching AAA on YouTube, so to speak, I don't know how much of what you see on YouTube matches what you see locally in Mexico for their weekly television. Something tells me that it's less because obviously they have TV deals in Mexico. And if I was those TV stations in Mexico, those networks, I'd be pretty pissed if WWE was offering this shit on YouTube for nothing. You know, because that eats into their viewership. And you have commercials and sponsors just like you do in WWE. So you are getting less, but it's because the promotion is smaller and the sales are much smaller and the revenue is much smaller. You know, no matter how much we start becoming fans of AAA, you know, we're not buying tickets. We're not going to pay-per-views. The only thing we could do is help generate ad revenue on YouTube or buy merchandise. That's it. So how does WWE capitalize on all of us? YouTube ads or buying merchandise? And they don't sell a plethora of AAA merchandise. And there's a lot of places online sell bootleg. So hopefully that answered it a little bit. But that's why they have nice turnouts too. It is not outrageous. AAA ticket prices, and I'll give WWE credit for this. They really didn't change the ticket prices much once they took over. That's something that a lot of wrestling media has never told you. You never heard stories that TKO came in and suddenly, because now WWE owns half of AAA, that now they were going to fucking put their price tag on the tickets and they doubled or whatever it is. You didn't hear any of that. So they still make it reasonable where they get nice turnouts. And there's a lot of loyalty in Mexico. Big time loyalty. So thank you. Bobby Means, he's going to be very curious to see what ESPN Unlimited numbers are for SummerSlam, especially if Netflix are getting those numbers. I don't think ESPN reveals them. See, here's the thing. Say what you want about Meltzer with Netflix. What Meltzer doesn't tell you, as you saw in that article, is that Disney Plus and Hulu Plus do the same exact thing that Netflix does. The only difference is they don't make their numbers public. Amazon does the same thing. What Dave Meltzer's problem is, I don't want to compare it to Jim Cornette, but this is the best way I could describe it. I love Jim Cornette. I enjoy his podcast. I don't agree with everything. I hate his political views, mostly. But I'll say this. Most people that complain about Jim Cornette is not that he's over-the-top vulgar anymore or people would stupidly accuse him of racist or whatever, but the biggest complaint I think people have of Jim Cornette today is he doesn't adapt with the times, that he is so old school that a lot of what wrestling is today, he will not accept. He will absolutely just shoot it down and will always incorporate his nostalgia with what he says. And that's his right. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's the complaint. The problem with Dave Meltzer is Dave Meltzer tries to insist that because Nielsen did it a certain way, that Netflix has to do it too. Every time you hear Dave Meltzer bringing up day one numbers, my friend Rumpelstiltskin, wake up. Netflix don't monitor day one live numbers. You do because you had a fascination for it for 30 years. Get your head out of your ass. That's not what Netflix does. That's not what Disney does. That's not what Amazon does. That's not what Hulu Plus does. I don't care how much you don't like it. You're not 5 years old at home and I feed you Brussels sprouts and I cry like a baby and my father says, I don't care if you don't like it. You don't want it? You don't eat nothing tonight. I don't care how you feel. You're going to eat it and you're going to shut up. Accept it. This is not your world. You don't work there. You have no connections there. BJ Bethel has no connections. All these people put their weird spin on numbers and no one else cooperates with it. The only people that cooperate with it are the people out there that are doing the same wacky shit. So when you see what you see with like ESPN, the only time they're going to reveal numbers if there's an amazing number. Look at NWA. The first week they went on whatever channel that was, Comet, like the cleaner, Comet. The first week, they couldn't wait to tell everyone, 300,000 viewers, more than Impact. Holy shit, NWA, Comet. We never got a rating ever again. Never got one ever again. Comet would only pull it out when everything is epic, amazing, unbelievable. Holy fucking shit. So ESPN Unlimited is not going to reveal a number unless it's huge. And this is my biggest argument that I've said for years now. If AEW, and I say this sincerely, and no one has yet to give me a good answer. If AEW was doing such a good number on Warner Brothers Discovery Max, why would they not send out a press release to entice their advertisers to buy advertising for this show? Why not preach to the world that AEW Dynamite is doing these numbers? Why would you hide that? Why would you tout other shows? But AEW, you never mentioned a thing. If it was doing as good as people want you to believe, why do they never celebrate it, tout it, brag about it, tell it to the business world? Fuck the wrestling world. Tell it to the business world. And maybe you can generate some more interest in advertising. Why would they not do that? Again, 3/4 of what I say is just common sense. It's not an exclusive. It's not news. Half the shit you read is not news. It's just common sense that people try to make it seem like it's news. It's not. So, unfortunately, the only way you're going to hear anything about ESPN Unlimited is if they reveal a big number. And believe me, no one will ever challenge me on this. No one. No one. That's why suddenly when I throw shit out there, I get no response. Because they know what's coming. What's coming is facts. Trust me, if I wanted to do this for clout or for hits, I would just fucking keep writing it everywhere 1,000 times over. You know, I'm putting it for everybody who takes the time to listen to what I have to say. And I kind of feel like if I don't tell you straight up, then I'm disrespecting you. I don't disrespect anybody that takes the time to tune into what I do. I will always just try to be straight up. Doesn't mean that I'm perfect, but you'll get authenticity over here. There's no ego over here. I used to have a horrible ego, and I burned bridges with people because of it. But to me, I'm too old for that shit now. So thank you for that. Craig returns. He watched the Mask versus Mask match, and he firmly believes the out-of-the-country crowds are so much better. Are we lazy as American crowds, or are the venues so big that it looks like we're not interested? No, there's just Lucha Libre in Mexico, it is much deeper. There is a more intimate connection. There is, it is a different mindset. Is much more like spectacle, the presentation. It is very different. It's a different style. Just like Japanese wrestling in a lot of ways is a completely different style. You look at Japanese, even if you look at Japanese wrestling from the 70s, I know wrestling used to be much more boring in a lot of ways when I grew up watching wrestling in the 70s and the 80s, but you would see in Japan, you throw Stan Hansen, Terry Funk in Japan and watch the chaos they create even in the 80s, and you see the Japanese crowds. I mean, even look at Hogan. When Hulk Hogan used to wrestle in Japan, I remember over the years watching Hulk Hogan in Japan matches with people and never saw him wrestle in Japan before, and people were like, holy shit, the guy could work. Yeah, because in Japan, you can't get away with what you do over here. I mean, he could do some of the Hulkamania stuff, but he had to, because if he didn't, it'd be disrespecting the culture. It is totally different. That's why the infamous moment when he was in Japan and it's not that he threw down the WWF title, but he called it a trinket. And he was talking about, I think, IWGP's belt or something. In Mexico, it is much more intimate. I don't want to try to be over the top and say it's a love story, but it kind of is. It's like the most theatrical of all wrestling. It might be the most theatrical of it all. And it's a different culture. I mean, you see some of the wrestlers in AAA now. I mean, you look at even when Triple H and Nick Khan was sitting at ringside, and you saw some of the characters that were coming out, and they put the camera on their faces, and they didn't look like they were amused. They were like, oh no, we absolutely would not put this fucking person in WWE. But in AAA, it is accepted. It's just a very different environment. It is a much different culture. The presentation, just for the mask, you just, how like respectful you have to be. That's why people got so livid when I think Gunther took off Dragon Lee's mask, and people were just losing it online. And what was weird about it was 99% of the people that were losing it were American wrestling fans, not even fans in Mexico. They do storylines in Mexico where somebody in mask will get pulled off and they'll put a towel over their face or they'll cover their face up and they lose matches because of it. I mean, the only time that I hate when they do that, and I've joked about this before, and I don't want to start doing examples now, but I'm going to take my hat off for this. I'm going to take my glasses off for this. But just pretend I have a mask. Just pretend I have a mask on. I'll put my shirt over my face to make a point. I put a mask on, and WWE does this once in a while, and it's so dumb. They'll have the mask on, and then somebody will turn it sideways. Like Dragon Lee, they'll turn his mask sideways. So they pretend this is my mask, and they'll turn it sideways. And in storyline, why don't I just turn it back? Yeah, I know my hair's all messed up. Why don't I just turn it back? Like, it's just, to me, that's where it gets dumb. But in AAA, the mask is sacred. I had a friend of mine that he was the one responsible in getting some Lucha Libre stars for the Masked Maniac when I worked for Frank Goodman. And that's how I became friendly with some of the Lucha Libre guys from back in the day. And his name was Mike Frigerio, and he died a few years ago. And here in the Northeast, some people remember like 20 years ago, whenever you went to an indie wrestling show, there used to be a big burly guy that looked like Meatloaf, the singer, only, with longer hair. And he would have a table and he'd sell like 500 different Lucha Libre masks. All he would do is sell masks. And some people remember who that is. That was my friend Mike Mongo. And the masks are sacred. You didn't mock it. You didn't make fun of it. You didn't alter it. You didn't, you do not disrespect the culture. They take it it's very, very deep over there. And that's why when El Grande Americano was accepted by the Mexican audience, because just think about it on the surface. You have a guy who's not even Mexican or Latino, who's not even a Lucha Libre wrestler, put on a mask, talking about how he's the great American. And you think about, let's get political for a second. You got Donald Trump as president, ICE, deporting people, building a wall, Mexico, crossing the border illegally. So you would think the ultimate heel would be a guy wearing an American mask, talking about he's the great American in Mexico, and Mexico fell in love with him. I mean, how does that happen? And once that happened, the guy became Teflon. That's why the day El Grande Americano turns heel, they will have to literally physically protect him. I mean, the fans will take it so personal that I'm not saying death threats or anything, but I'm saying like the day El Grande Americano turns heel in Mexico, it'll be something that you probably haven't seen in wrestling in decades. Just the way it is taken by the Mexican wrestling fans. Oh my God. And trust me when I tell you, it's that deep. I might even be downplaying it. That's why if you think about it, you don't have these real memorable heel turns by wrestlers in Mexico. When I say it that way, I mean like especially a Latino. Just imagine, this guy is an intruder, an outsider. He's not one of us. And that's how it was interpreted early on. That was the whole thing about Chad Gable. It was kind of mocking Lucha Libre. And what ended up happening, the opposite. I don't think anybody in a million years could have envisioned that. So it's not that Americans are not as interested. It's just a different way of life. But you got to remember this too. The cost of living, like I said earlier, and the amount of money that you spend to enjoy wrestling is a lot less. When it's almost like being able to go to an indie show. Go to an indie show, pay $20, you have the same people working every month, you start getting a little bit of an intimate relationship. Even when I used to work indie shows in Long Island over here, even I used to get nice pops. I mean, some of you seem to wrestle crap stuff when I was managing people also. I would come out and get these big pops. I'm like, holy shit. It's because every month you're just there and you get a relationship. You build that connection. So it is much more intimate there, and it's much cheaper. It's much more affordable. And the wrestlers there do not get paid an insane amount of money. So, they value it even more. And, it is what it is. But definitely different world. Much different world. That's why you can never change the culture of AAA. WWE will put the spin on it. They'll put some wrestlers in there. But even when you see some WWE wrestlers working in AAA, you don't see many Mexican wrestling fans getting mad. Fuck, why are we getting the Viking Raiders? Why aren't they just pushing our guys? Nobody's complaining because anybody that shows up there is working hard because they know that audience will not tolerate any less. So, all right. I think we're going to wrap it. It is 1 a.m. here in New York. So I want to thank you all for spending a little bit of your Monday night with yours truly. I really do appreciate it. This Wednesday, we will be doing Wednesday Night Dynamite. We'll get into more news, the weekend ratings. We'll get into some AEW, TNA stuff. I have a few stories we're definitely going to get into on Wednesday. I hope that this Page story doesn't turn to where I think it's going, but it's not. It's not a huge story, but especially, when you think of like mental health, and trust me, that will be brought up. I expect her to go offline, to go dark, and, but again, words matter, and, she kind of said a few things on that Bella podcast that she probably shouldn't have said, and she just triggered a lot of people, and, we got some other things to get into, but I just want to thank you as always. Much love. Keep supporting the website, wrestling-news.com. Download all the shows I do. Not only it helps me pay the bills, they're free, but it keeps us relevant. We're on the hunt. We want to get back in the top 10. By the end of next year, we got to be in the top 10 and the top 20. We're not that far off, but the only way that happens is because of all of you. And the only way that happens is, if you enjoy the shows, keep tuning in. If you know anyone else out there you think would like it, let them know about it. And we'll keep just trying to keep it real. That's the most important thing. But you have any comments, post it. We read it. Everybody checks it out. And we'll definitely get into the rest of the shows later this week. So be well, everybody. Much love. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. Be well.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.